Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Thursday, October 17th, 2024. I'm your host, George Kurt, joined by the hot takes man himself, Tyler Snyder. It's been a long time since we've done an episode together. Tyler, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good. I mean, you weren't here when Cody was here. I did lose my perfect record in World Cup. So, little upset about that, but outside of that, dude, I'm dominating my fantasy leagues. So, sometimes maybe the hot takes guy knows what he's talking about. So, if you're watching today, maybe you want to listen up.
Let me open up another tab here and get your advice for my World Cup team as we move through here. I'm 2-4, but with the way that fantasy is this year, believe it or not, I'm in a playoff spot.
Yeah, it sounds about right because playoffs are crazy. And I will kick off this show by giving a little PSA to anybody out there. Pay close attention. Do not lose focus on fantasy just because you're losing. I don't care if you don't have a win yet this season. You're not far off from a playoff spot, especially if you're in a 10-team league with a 6-team playoff, which is the standard. You're not far off from a playoff spot. You can still get in. Anything can happen. So keep pushing. I'd rather go down fighting than go down because I gave up. So we got this, guys. We're going to bring it back.
And the hot takes man himself is going to help you dig out of it with all the advice he's got the rest of the day. You can also hit us in our DMs or in the comments. We are live if you are watching us on YouTube or Facebook. If you're hitting us in the YouTube in the podcast feed the day after, I'm doing great here. Make sure you check us out Thursdays and Mondays, 6:30. We go live. And follow us at the Couch GMs, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. All right, Tyler, let me get my button ready. And why don't we sit back, relax, and chat? I love how literally you take this. This is...
Oh, sorry. You said sit back and relax. I was relaxed.
Oh, you're relaxed for sure. Big trades earlier this week. I almost was like, hey, you and Cody going to go on and do a remake on Tuesday, but we can talk about it here. Some wide receiver moves, big one, and maybe not the surprising one. Jets trading for Davante Adams. The Raiders receive a 3rd-round pick that's conditional that can move up to a 2nd-round pick. Is there any shock that Rodgers volleyed to get Davante Adams back with him again?
I'm so shocked. It's crazy. Didn't see this coming at all.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, when it comes to how it affects the landscape of the Jets, do we like Davante Adams better for fantasy than we did with Gardner Minshew and whatever rotating quarterback? And follow-up question to that, how much do you think it affects Garrett Wilson, who was starting to get some traction with Rodgers?
I would say it's a win-win. If I'm being honest, I think that Davante is going to get better. He has a quarterback that has a rapport with him. Rodgers is going to want to throw the ball to Davante. But in turn, because you have Davante there, defenses have to stay honest. I think that they're going to start giving more focus to Davante Adams, which is going to leave Garrett Wilson a little bit lighter in coverage. And I think that Garrett Wilson will do better as well. I mean, I really don't think that a wide receiver was what the Jets needed to fix their problems. But, hey, we'll see if I'm wrong and things start going up from here.
Maybe an offensive lineman trades in their future, too, if they actually start to win some games. But I don't imagine them buying more pieces as they move on after a head coaching fire and stuff, unless they actually start winning some games and being within reach of a playoff spot. Obviously, that's their hope, and then they hope they get in and get hot at the right time, but it's not been pretty so far. And then the other wide receiver trade, a team that we were shocked didn't make a wide receiver move at the beginning of the season. Buffalo Bills, they trade for Amari Cooper. Trade was Cooper and a 6th-round pick for a 3rd and a 2026 7th. So not really a big splash move when it comes to actual value in the draft. But Amari Cooper has been very up and down. Do you think he can really make a difference still in Buffalo?
Yeah, I think he can. I think that he was actually one of the better wide receivers last year. He was just so underrated because he was on such a bad team. I think that he proves that he can get open. He proves that he can put up the stats when the opportunity arises. And let's not forget that there was also, I think it was a 75-yard touchdown by Amari Cooper that was erased by a penalty that didn't exist. That happened
Yeah.
this year, so his points could have been even better. He's still got some left in the tank, and he's going to a much better quarterback and better team. Um, I feel like Cooper is going to draw a lot of double coverages because the Bills don't have a whole lot of weapons right now. But still, I think it's a better situation. I'm not saying that Cooper is going to be the end all be all. He's going to win you your championship now, but um, he becomes a lot more startable, especially in the flex moving forward than he was before.
So you're telling me he's going to draw doubles? Is this the exact thing that Khalil Shakur needed?
It very well could be. It honestly very well could be. I think that Shakur could take a step forward. I think that Keon Coleman could take a step forward. I think that Amari Cooper could take a step forward, and I think whoever their running back is going to continue to do well because the more you have to trust that pass game, the better the run game is going to look. Um, if I'm a Josh Allen owner, I'm very happy here because Allen has had some very up and down games this year. He's either putting up 40 or 6. So I think this is going to give you a lot more even matchups from now on.
I'm glad you mentioned running back because I mean I think James Cook's supposed to be back this week, but he's I think maybe the person who benefits the most, at least in my mind, because that seemed like at the beginning of the year it was the Josh Allen show, and then James Cook was the only other person who they felt confident with in the offense. Guys, catching balls here and there, but James Cook's going to have less attention on him if you have a name like Amari Cooper out there. So I really like that you brought that up as well. Anything else you want to add about trades before we move into our fantasy preview?
Yeah, get ready for DeAndre Hopkins to go to the Chiefs. It's going to happen. I can feel it.
And Tyreek Hill's not going anywhere? Is that your thought too?
I don't think Tyreek's going anywhere either. No.
All right. We'll see in about a week or two if any of that comes out. But I'm going to hit an extra bumper. I don't know if Cody usually does this. Why don't we preview week 7? All right. We have 2 bye weeks this week, so it's nice to see that after a couple of weeks of really heavy injuries and 4 teams on bye, we have a little bit of a break. Bears and Cowboys are those 2 teams. Some key players we're looking at replacing. Caleb Williams has been coming up, DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb as well on the Cowboys side. We also have a game in London again, and it's the Jaguars for the second straight week. They are hosting the Patriots. Patriots are a very interesting case, not necessarily because I'm talking about playing any of them in fantasy, but they gave Drake May a shot last week, and he threw for 3 touchdowns. It was the most confident that the Patriots offense has looked all year.
Yeah, I honestly I like Drake May not for dynasty purposes. Don't really like him for redraft purposes. If you need a bye week fill in, like if you're a Dak Prescott owner and you need somebody to pick up and the waiver wire is kind of light, Drake May is not a horrible option. You could do a lot better. I mean, if it's between, um, Spencer Rattler and Will Levis and all them, yeah, give me Drake May.
If you were somebody who was in a super flex or a 2 quarterback league and you ended up with Drake May as your quarterback 2, or if Drake May was available since he wasn't a starter, worth a shot there. That's the only time I would think about it in fantasy if it wasn't dynasty, but with you there. And I think the only other person it really affects in my mind is it throws Hunter Henry, the other Henry, a little further up the tight end dartboard bucket. Throw the dartboard in the trash can and just throw a dart in it. I don't know. That's how it's basically been this year, but something like that.
Yeah, is Mark Andrews good again? Like I don't even know what's happening in life. This
I
is
don't know.
tight ends suck. Tight ends are the worst. Cody wants to banish kickers from fantasy. I'd rather banish tight ends from fantasy before I banish kickers. That's kind of where I'm at because it wasn't just like I remember it was like 4 years ago we had this discussion of oh wow this is a really bad year for tight ends surprisingly, and now it's been literally 4 consecutive years of just like oh no tight ends are just trash. What happened?
They're getting consistently worse too. Like last year they were trash, but there was like 5 guys where it's like these 5 guys are doing pretty good. It's not even that this year.
No.
Tight end 4 is like a guy who had 1 solid week and scored 2 points every other week. It's like, how does this happen? It kind of came out of nowhere when there's people like Kelsey haven't done anything. Kittle's had 1 or 2 weeks and that's it. Like there's nothing.
Yeah, I mean I was looking at Hunter Henry. I picked him up in a couple leagues where I had Jake Ferguson and I needed a replacement. So I picked up Hunter Henry in a couple places, and like you see him on waivers as like tight end 7 on the year or tight end 6, like something really surprisingly high, and he only has like 40 points on the entire year combined. So how do you have 40 points and a half point PPR and you're tight end 7? That is sad. Um,
Exactly.
it's not good. It's not good.
No,
Tight ends kind of suck. So really, honestly, yeah, you could pick up any tight end, just hope that he gets a touchdown. But Hunter Henry is one of the ones that I like if you have to pick one up.
I like it. Jaguar side of the ball. I think the biggest thing I wanted to touch on with you before we get off of this is the running back situation in Jacksonville, because Travis Etienne is banged up. He's not really doing much of anything at all right now. Tank Bigsby didn't even have a great game last week, but he's been taking more of the touches. I'm liking Bigsby long term, but is there anybody that you are okay with playing considering it's a bad matchup?
So ETN was looking like he was going to be out, which makes Bigsby a little bit more intriguing, a little bit more tempting. But now they're saying, oh, he's actually suddenly practicing, even though he thought he wasn't going to be a few weeks. And um, but yeah, I honestly, with this matchup, it's not a good one, and that team as a whole just being a joke. I'm not starting any Jaguars running back. I don't care if ETN is a full participant tomorrow and he ends up playing on Sunday morning. I don't care. I'm not playing any Jaguars running back this week.
I'm with you there, but trying to keep both of them on your roster because there's upside there, and we're hoping that it's not an ugly running back by committee by the end of the season. We can go into the early window in a second. I just want to throw a question up on the board before we do. I don't know who this name is. It doesn't seem too familiar to me. Lineup advice, half PPR. We're starting 2 out of Jonathan Taylor / Trey Sermon. Jonathan Taylor is questionable. He's not practicing yet this week. Devontae Smith and Jamison Williams. Where are you going here?
Well, first I need to go to my fantasy matchups and make sure she's not playing me before I answer this question. Um, let's see, half point PPR, JT or Sermon. Uh, I'm going with Devontae Smith and Jamison Williams. I think that Jamison Williams has proven to be a lot more consistent than he was before. I will say I'm guilty of leaving Jamison on the bench more often than I'm proud of. Um, I feel like JT's not fully healthy yet. He's going to play, I believe. But even if he does play, I still think they're going to split because of the fact that he's recently coming back from an injury. Um, and really, this is another team whose offense isn't thrilling at the moment. Um, I think Devontae Smith is always good for probably about one touchdown, but at least going to get some targets. I'm going with the 2 receivers.
If Jonathan Taylor plays, I think it makes it a little bit more interesting to me. I'm not considering Sermon just after he had a very mediocre week and then a complete dud. Just because I know the Colts don't tend to play Jonathan Taylor with the intent of limiting him. Every single time it seems like, oh, no, he's got a full set of carries or he's not playing at all. But even yet, I like Devontae Smith's matchup against the Giants. I think there's points to be had there. And Jamison Williams is like wide receiver 20 or 21 right now in the year. He's been very solid, kind of under the radar. So I'm with you. I'll stick with the receivers on that one.
But also, it's like at this point in the season, most people's teams are falling apart. If you're at this point in the season and you're looking at benching one of those 3, you have the option to bench one of those 3. You're doing fine. Pat yourself on the back. Good job.
That's true. And I mean, sometimes it takes a little bit of luck. Like I know Jamison Williams was kind of a late round flyer in the draft and it hit, which is fantastic. But there's other times where if you are in that situation where you had one of those waiver wire pickups that you have a chance to bench, you're doing good. So I like it. Going to the early window, we can talk about that Eagles game, Eagles at Giants. And the Giants rookie sensation Malik Neighbors has cleared concussion protocol, should be good to go unless some symptoms come back up this week. And I think he's right back in your lineup because he's been absolutely fantastic. He was wide receiver 1 before he started to miss time.
Yeah, it was him and Nico Collins were 1 and 2. So to see both of them go down was really depressing. But no, Malik Neighbors is in my lineup. Excited to see him back because it's just nice seeing this youth movement, people you can rely on later, come back. Hopefully, you went out there and you were able to snag Malik Neighbors while he was injured from a team that was desperate for somebody to start. Hopefully, you did a little bit of trading, but if not, just be happy you have Neighbors back.
Exactly. And I'm not much else I'm touching on the Giants side, Eagle side, playing your guys. Like there's not really much else to say in there, but I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Neighbors news. 'Cause I had to bring up the Malik Nei I want to move right on to the next game because it's Titans at Bills. We talked a little bit already about James Cook, who is a full participant in practice on Thursday. Looks like he's going to be back and good to go after missing that Monday night game. Titans, any news on anything that would be worth, besides maybe a potential DeAndre Hopkins trade, is what you
Yeah,
said?
I think if the Titans lose this week, which I mean it's the Bills, there's a very good chance of that. That DeAndre Hopkins will be off the team by next week. There's a lot of rumors that either Traylon Burks or DeAndre Hopkins will get traded, and they are heavily, heavily linked to the Chiefs, which I don't like. I would rather trade out of conference, but that's what's currently being linked. On the Titan side of the ball, there's really no huge news other than Tajay Spears is going to be out. So with Tajay Spears out, that means Tony Pollard is the sole back. And I was saying in the preseason, if people wanted to listen to me, that Tony Pollard is a guy you need to target because he is getting a lot more carries than we expected. It's not a 50-50 split. And now it's going to be even more. It's going to be him and Julius Chestnut. That dude's not taking carries. So
He's eating hot dogs, right?
yes, he is. Joey Chestnut is going hard. So we have Tony Pollard is going to be a must start in your lineup. Outside of that, I'm not touching any Titans offensive players. I will say I will be at this game. I am making the 6-hour drive tomorrow after work, and we will be at the Bills Titans game this weekend.
Hope it's a good experience for you. I know Buffalo is a really good atmosphere. Any news on a quarterback switch in Tennessee? Also, that was the other thing that I knew you would be able to give more insight than me. I've heard whispers.
No, there's no quarterback switch. Basically, if you think about it, so if the Titans stick with Will Levis all year, and Levis actually does seem to come to form and becomes something good. Um, then they know they have their quarterback of the future. However, if he continues to play the way he is now, switching to Mason Rudolph and winning some games, potentially winning some games, really doesn't do much for the team other than hurt their draft pick because they're not going to make the playoffs at this rate. So the Titans are going to stick with Will Levis injury. And if he continues to lose games, we have a better draft pick and we'll draft that good quarterback next year. If he turns it on and becomes something, then we have our quarterback for the future. I really think the first one is a little bit more likely, though.
I think that's the move that that would be best for them for their future right now. But I just feel like I've heard so many whispers or like almost backhanded comments from the coaching staff of like Will Levis needs to get it together because it's not pretty. But I haven't heard you commenting about a super ugly interception in like 2 weeks. So at least that's a good sign.
Well, the Titans are kind of at the point where they're afraid to let him throw the ball, which is not good for Calvin Ridley or DeAndre Hopkins. So
Very
that's
good
why
for Tony Pollard.
very good for Tony Pollard. Yeah, he's doing nothing but dump screens. That's pretty much it. So it's hard to throw a pick in that when you're throwing dump screens.
Yes, it is. I'm going to move us on to Texans at Packers because this is number one, a very good matchup. Two very solid young teams that are up and coming. Texans also have Joe Mixon, who has been limited in practice this week. There's a chance that he makes a return. They have not gotten a lot out of their running game since Mixon's been out. So that would bring a different dynamic to their offense than we've seen in a few weeks. And I also like that Tank Dell really stepped right into the Nico Collins role, or at least took Nico Collins targets. They play slot and outside, and really started to show why you had taken him with that upside at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Dell looks good. He's no Nico Collins. Nobody's going to be. Stephon Diggs has also taken a bit of a step forward. He's been a little bit more consistent, I would say. I really like the Texans side of the ball. I want to say shout out to everybody in our league of record for allowing CJ Stroud to fall to like round 15 and being my first quarterback taken. Thank you so much for that. Um, yeah, the Texans are an awesome team. Really, there's so many playmakers on this team that you can start. They're another one that, like, if you really are in a desperate situation, you could pick up somebody on this team and throw it into your flex spot and hope, and you're probably going to be better off. But the Packers honestly do have some good players as well. And Tucker Kraft has really shown himself to be a good startable tight end when healthy. But my question for you is, outside of Jaden Reed, because I feel like Jaden Reed is a lock in your lineup every week, what receivers do you trust in your lineup at this point?
On Green Bay, I don't know if trust can be linked to any of them because it seems like it's this week's a Romeo Dobbs week. And I think last week that Cody kind of hit the nail on the head of the whole, like, he was suspended for the conduct detrimental to the team. And they were like, oh, they're going to feed him a touchdown this week. And they did. But Dontavian Wicks has been in and out, and Christian Watson, I feel like, always has a chance to pop a big touchdown, but it only happens once every 4 weeks. I don't think I trust any of them. I think you have the chance to play Watson or Dobbs if you are desperate, especially with bye weeks and injuries. But the only person I'm actually comfortable putting in my lineup is Reed.
So who is more underwhelming at this point, Brees Hall or Josh Jacobs?
I would probably say Josh Jacobs, and it's mostly because he's gotten 1.5 million yards, it feels like, but he can't break the end zone, and because of that, his ceiling's just been pushed down. And you see there's so much upside, and I am sticking with him everywhere. Obviously, he's doing fine, but if he starts getting touchdowns in the second half of the year, the dude could win leagues for people. He's doing that well. It just hasn't shown because he hasn't gotten in the end zone.
Fair enough. Anybody else on the Packers side of the ball that you want to talk about?
Jordan Love, I think, can go into your lineup. It's not the greatest matchup, but it's not the worst. He's somebody who's basically right around that quarterback 10. If you don't have a better option, pop him in. But I think that's about all I'm looking at on that one. One more really good matchup in that division, Lions at Vikings. Now, let me also mention, there's currently 3 teams in the NFC North that are in the playoffs in the NFC right now, which is not going to stay that way, but it's ridiculous to see this far in the season. There's 3 of them in.
Yeah, I'm also very frustrated that, like, obviously they didn't expect this at this point in the season, but either the Texans Packers or the Lions Vikings would be great on Monday night or Sunday night football.
Mhm.
And yet the Sunday and Monday night games I feel like are kind of trash. So it's frustrating that all these really good games are going to be happening at 1 o'clock. Like, come on, man. Wish we could flex this early.
Exactly. I mean, I think there's been a lot of gamesmanship with like Fox and CBS protecting games, but even like there's a 3-game 4 o'clock window this week. Who needs a 3-game 4 o'clock window? Move one of those key matchups into there, make it one of those like kind of national broadcasts, except if you have a local game, like, you know what I mean?
So I've heard this discussion before on NFL radio
Mhm.
because they asked this earlier in the week. It was like, I think it was like week 3. Um, there was like 7, 8 games on 1 o'clock and then 3 at 4 o'clock. And they were like, won't you just spread it out a little more so we can watch more? And it's basically because the NFL, when they do this, it's because they have this one set matchup that they want to have a stupid amount of viewership for. They want to have uh, great ratings for, and that's why they take away all the games at that time. And of course, it's the Chiefs and 49ers is going
Of
to be that
course.
game. They want everybody and their mother watching that game, which, by the way, anytime the NFL does this, that game usually ends up being terrible. Um,
Just look at Lions Cowboys last week.
right. Yeah. Anytime you expect this to be the game of the week and like everybody needs to watch this one, um, it ends up being trash. So if you're going to make it so that you want everybody watching this one set game, put it on Sunday or Monday night. Don't put it on a 4 o'clock window and then take away all the other games. It's frustrating, but hey, they are billionaires for a reason. So what do I know?
The NFL basically prints money at this point, so they can do exactly what they want.
Yeah.
But Lions Vikings is going to be one of the maybe the most interesting 1 o'clock game. Um, on the Vikings side of the ball, we do have Aaron Jones as a limited participant in practice. I know that we were all kind of going out there looking at adding Ty Chandler as a potential handcuff before their bye week. Might not get to play him, but if Jones does go, are you comfortable enough to play him? I know that we
Man, I just accidentally clicked on our feed in the middle of recording.
my voice
That
sounds
was
horrible through a mic through a speaker.
that
I
was
mean, it probably
meta.
sounds horrible anyway, so thank you to anybody who's listening, but
That was meta. That was cool. Um Anyway, yes, if he plays, I am throwing him in my lineup. I feel like he's just He's too good. But if he doesn't play, I know Cody was all on board for Ty Chandler. I'm not. I really don't want him in my lineup. I feel like there's better options out there, so I'm not jumping on the backup route.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was going to ask you some questions about would you play this or this, but with my running back being so bad in our league of record, it's either Ty Chandler or Zach Moss. If
Yikes.
he doesn't go, so I've got the Colts backfield locked up and the Vikings backfield locked up, and I've got Zach Moss, and that's all I got at running back.
No wonder you were
Great
sending me
time.
trade offers.
See, you're welcome.
I denied them all.
I know. I really tried. I've got a lot of wide receivers, especially because Brian Thomas is my boy. But
Brian Thomas is good. I have him in a league where I'm benching him every week because my receivers are too good. And it's like, it's so frustrating because I want him in my lineup, but nobody is trading for a wide receiver right now. So it's tough.
wide receivers are, I mean, there's the top end running backs are still overperforming the wide receivers, but there's a lot more wide receivers in those, startable tiers that a lot of people are just kind of comfortable standing pat at this point.
Yeah.
Lions side of the ball, I don't have much else to say unless you want to add anything in. If not, I'll move us
Nah.
on.
Start your studs. You know who you're doing. And I already talked about Jameson Williams. So he's in my lineup.
Yes, sir. Going on to the Seattle Seahawks, we got one of those good old West Coast teams traveling east at 1:00 to face the Atlanta Falcons. Kirko has been looking better over the last few weeks. I think he has a chance to go in your lineup along with Bijan. And those wide receivers are still popping off. I haven't really had a chance to talk to you specifically too much about your boy Darnell Mooney,
Love
but
that
you got
man.
to be pumped to see him finally coming together.
Dude, I've loved that man since he first came into the league. I got him in Dynasty. When everyone else is like, "Why are you picking up this dude?" I was like, I don't know why. I love him for no reason. So yeah, I'm super excited to see him doing well. I have him starting in a couple leagues too because I trust him. Um, he's always been a speed threat. On the Bears, he was like that guy that only gets 3 targets, but they were all verticals. So if he catches one or two of them, then he's going to have a big game. If he catches none, then he's not having a game at all. I'm glad to see the Falcons are actually utilizing more than just the deep ball. He's still definitely there for the deep ball, and that's definitely what's giving him his bigger points. But um, I'm glad to see them using him more. So I feel like if you are a Darnell Mooney owner, you can throw him into your lineup a lot more comfortably than you did in years past.
Definitely. And the Seahawks, as decent of a team as they've been, their defense hasn't really been very resistant. They've been giving up a lot of points and they just happen to outscore some teams. So not a bad matchup there either. Seahawks side of the ball, I've seen a lot of people, and I know he's doing decent, that are playing Jackson Smith and Jigba. But I still just don't feel comfortable. Like, especially if you put up the wide receiver 2 comparison with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Darnell Mooney. I feel way more comfortable playing Darnell Mooney. And is that just me?
No. I have 8 fantasy leagues, and
Mhm.
I have Jackson Smith the Jigba in 0 of them. I have interest in getting him in 0 of them. He's not somebody that throws me. I feel like he's not consistent enough. Somehow with Tyler Lockett being 100 years old, and DK Metcalf still being a hothead, there's still too many mouths to feed somehow. Um, and I don't know why, but I can never seem to fully trust Geno Smith to spread the ball out enough to put up massive numbers. Um, so no, I'm not starting JSN at all. But I mean, I guess there's worse options out there if you're in a desperate need for a flex. But with Geno being said, I am seeing him get dropped in a few leagues, which is interesting because he's actually a top 10 fantasy quarterback right now. Um, and I feel like the Seahawks are so mid. Like they can put up points like a good team, but they're going to lose a lot of games like a bad team, which means there's going to be a lot of garbage time where they're just going to be throwing the ball. So I like Gino as a streaming option this week, especially if you were a DAC owner and you need somebody to throw in there. This is a good week to do it.
Why don't we talk just quarterbacks in general here for half a second? Because you did mention about Geno being dropped in some leagues. I've seen that too. And he is quarterback 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right now. But like there's just so many other interesting guys around. Like Baker Mayfield has been available until maybe the last 2 weeks. He's quarterback 2 right now.
Hmm.
Justin Fields is quarterback 6, and there's a chance he gets benched for Russell Wilson this week. Like, this is above even the other years that we've always said, go out there and wait to draft your quarterback until the end of the draft. This year has been even more because there's just been gems sitting out on free agency. So if you're somebody who is not particularly happy with your quarterback performance, or even if you're somebody with Patrick Mahomes, check your waiver wire.
Yeah, honestly, I say it every year, like wait to get a quarterback because I feel like the late quarterbacks are always solid. I feel like there's only been 1 year in the last 5 that I can remember that I waited to take a quarterback and it bit me because that was the year that Mahomes and Allen and Lamar, all of them went off and everybody else was just not good. But if you think about it, like think back to the comment I just made. Gino is good because his team is mid. So why are we still hyper focusing on these quarterbacks that are on amazing teams? Quarterbacks that are going to turn to the run game to kill the clock in the second half because their team is up by so much because they're a good team. Guys like Baker Mayfield, that's a team that's mid. That is a team that, yeah, Baker's decent. Baker can throw the ball. He's got some good receivers to throw it to, but they're also not that great of a team that they can just abandon the pass game. They're going to have to throw in the second half in order to win games, meaning Baker's going to put up good points. Same with Justin Fields. I mean, Fields is kind of an outlier because of his legs, but stop going for these top tier quarterbacks. In our league of record, I waited till round 15. I got CJ Stroud to fall into my lap. Um, and I was super thrilled. And I can tell you that my wife was just complaining yesterday and said, I'm never drafting Patrick Mahomes again because she, for the first time, took an early round pick on Patrick Mahomes just to see how it goes. And he's not doing much. He's just not a great fantasy quarterback right now. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but he's not a great fantasy quarterback. So, uh, yeah, hopefully we all take this to note and change up our strategies a little bit next year.
I hope so. And just to drive home I don't think Patrick Mahomes is an every week starter anymore. You don't think Jalen Hurts has been having a fantastic year, correct?
Correct.
Him and Patrick Mahomes have played the same amount of games. They both had a bye already. Jalen Hurts is outscoring Patrick Mahomes by 19 points. That's a whole 1 week production.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson's played one more game than him, but Deshaun Watson has been dreadful.
Horrible.
He's outscoring Patrick Mahomes by a point. Jordan Love missed 2 games this season with injury. He is outscoring Patrick Mahomes by 16. He's played one less game than Patrick Mahomes, and he's outscoring by 16.
Yeah.
That's
Stop
ridiculous.
going for the top quarterbacks. Stop doing it. I mean, Josh Allen, like I talked about earlier, Josh Allen has been one of the top quarterbacks drafted, sometimes quarterback 1 drafted, and Josh Allen has had some really good weeks, but he's also had multiple weeks where he scored less than 10 points. So would you rather have the quarterback who might give you that 30-point week, but is also that inconsistent? Or would you rather have a third round wide receiver that's currently burning you every single week right now? Because I'm going with the third round wide receiver.
I would even rather have the third round wide receiver that's currently sitting on injured reserve, or have the Cooper Kupp who's coming back this week from injury, rather than having Patrick Mahomes at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to skip a few games because I don't think we really care about Bengals Browns. I do want to talk about Dolphins Colts, though, because there's a lot of running back news to talk about. We did kind of mention Jonathan Taylor still not practicing as of Thursday. Trey Sermon limited with his knee injury. I don't like playing Sermon anyway, even if he is the starter. Number one, he's banged up. Number two, the production just hasn't been there. I don't think there's any arguments from you on that one.
No.
But one of the more interesting questions that I've been hearing, you know how dreadful the Dolphins offense has been. Yes. Devon Achane cleared concussion protocol, and I've seen way more people than I expected going out there saying that Achane's about to go off this week. Are you getting that indication too?
No. I think Achane could have a good week. Is he going to go off? I'm never trusting anybody in their first week back to completely go off. Sometimes I'm wrong on that. Sometimes they do. But I still feel like if you're a guy that has Devon Achane and he is back, he's cleared, then that's somebody I trust to have in my lineup. Like that's not somebody I want to bench. And you also have to think concussions are a little bit different than other injuries. If you come back from a hamstring injury, there's a very good chance you're going to re-aggravate it because hamstrings just linger. If you're coming back from an ankle or a leg injury, like it might take some time for your body to adjust to the way that your leg is feeling. I can tell you as somebody that has a history of leg injuries, your body almost runs differently because it's trying to favor away from the part that was injured even if you're fully healthy. It's the weirdest thing. So they might not come back as normal. But with concussion, once you're cleared, you feel normal. You feel good to go. Your body's not adjusting to anything. So Achane should be able to jump out there and just be his normal self right away. I'm still not expecting him to completely go off, especially with how bad the Dolphins offense is, but I would have him in my lineup.
Definitely. He has not broken 10 points since Tua has been out, but I will say positive. We have a green matchup against Indianapolis. So putting him in the lineup, hoping for 12 is kind of what I'm thinking. I think these people that think he's going to absolutely go off is a little bit too optimistic, but I'm not benching him either. So we're right on the same page there. Couple of games in the late window. The Washington Commanders got a late window game. Props to them against the
They
Carolina
deserve it.
Panthers. And I know it's not because of the Carolina Panthers, if we're being honest.
No. I mean, it's late window, but it's also, you know, it's a 4 o'clock game. It's not like this is a primetime game. This is also, like I said, the NFL is going to throw some crappy matchups in here because they want everybody to watch the good matchup. So, as much as it seems like it's a nice thing for these teams, it's really not. It's the NFL saying you're not watchable. Let's go watch the other game. But dude, no, the Commanders are the most fun team in the league right now to watch. I'll ask you the same question because I'm curious. And honestly, any fans out there that are listening, I want to hear your answers too. So, George, feel free to shout them out if anybody does respond. But I don't want you to think of who's the best player in fantasy. I want you to think of who do you wish you had on your team or who do you wish you had more of on your teams looking back to the draft. So, I'll tell you my wife's answer. I asked her, she said, like, not Derrick Henry, the number one running back, none of that. Like, she said, I wish I had Jaden Daniels. He's fun. I didn't take him in any league, and he looks super fun to watch right now. I wish I had Jaden Daniels. So, who's your guy that you wish you had more of right now?
Putting me on the spot, that's a big one. Jaden Daniels is a fantastic answer, but the only reason I would kind of say no is because there's other guys out there at the same position that have been doing very well. And even one of them being Baker Mayfield, who's actually outscoring Jaden Daniels, that I was able to grab off of free agency in a few leagues since then.
Right. So
I
ignore
think,
points. Ignore points. Let's
okay,
not think who do you wish you had because they'd win you more games. Who do you wish you had because they're more fun to watch?
so far this season, even though it started to get a little bit more frustrating, Alvin Kamara is my guy
Nice.
because I've always liked Alvin Kamara. And between the value would have got him on, and then you see he just pops off for those 3 touchdown games, and it's like, I love watching Alvin Kamara when he's going off. He'd be my guy.
Yeah, I wish I had more of Nico Collins, and I know he was wide receiver one when he went out, so it sounds like I'm picking it for the points. But Nico Collins is just—he's so fun to watch. He's a really good player. But I'm going with Jags rookie receiver Brian Thomas. Dude's exciting to watch. He came out of nowhere, and like I said, I have him in one league, and I'm benching him. But I still wish I had him on more leagues because he's such a fun player to watch. So, if you're out there, what fun player do you wish you had on more teams? Curious of your answers, but we can go back to this game. So Panthers Commanders. If you're watching the Commander side of the ball, Jaden Daniels, he's in your lineup. He's pretty much a lock start at this point, unless you have a guy like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, one of these other guys that you have to consider. But yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., if he's healthy, isn't always a bad option. Or Brian Robinson, sorry, not Brian
Yep.
Thomas. I got them all mixed up now that I was talking
You
about
were
Brian
talking too
Robinson
much
Jr.
Brian Thomas to
So many
jump into Brian
Bryans.
Robinson. There's too much similarity there.
So many Bryans, but I feel like Terry McLaurin is the guy I want to highlight here because McLaurin has really taken a step forward with Jaden Daniels. He finally looks like the guy we were hoping he is. He's still a little inconsistent, but especially in this matchup, I feel like you got to have McLaurin in your lineup.
Does Cody have any music? No. Okay. I was gonna slow down, have a little bit of a deep moment because I feel like there's a little bit of an apology owed by me
Ah,
from
team
all
moment.
of my
I love it.
years. If you remember, I know Tyler definitely does because he likes making fun of me for so many things. There's 2 wide receivers in the league that I could never stand having on my roster, or if I did, I could never find a way to start. One of those is Amari Cooper. If Amari Cooper goes off in Buffalo, good for him. I'm glad he's getting to a better situation. He also had his one good game of the year last year to knock me out of the playoffs in 2 different leagues. So there's another feud going on there completely. But the other one, and Tyler knows exactly where I'm going, it's Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has always been that guy that when I play him, he scores 3. And when I don't play him, he scores 20. And he always ended up finishing, at least in my eyes, lower than where his draft value was. And it was like, I understand there's a lot there, but I never had the want to own him until this year. Maybe he would be my second guy of like guys I wish I had more shares of because the value was there and he has really taken a step forward with Jaden Daniels. So I feel like I owed a little bit of an apology to Terry McLaurin after all these years. I'm seeing it. I'm finally seeing it.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you, George.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
Terry McLaurin is good. I feel like he's really. We kind of said it before that there's those receivers out there that never seem to have a quarterback. He finally has a quarterback. And Jaden Daniels isn't even known for his arm. Really, he's known for his legs, and yet he's throwing the ball really well. I'm super impressed with this kid. I can't wait to keep watching him over the next few years. Um, but yeah, McLaurin's in your lineup. Is there anybody else on the Commander's side that you're throwing in?
Dart throw play at Zach Ertz. It's probably about it for me.
Yeah, tight ends. Who
Austin
cares?
Eckler had a decent week actually without Brian Robinson in. Don't know if I'd trust going it again, but he's still got some explosion. I'm impressed at his age. He's still got it.
Yeah, I didn't think Austin Eckler was just going to fall off the face of the earth like everybody else seemed to think, but still not somebody I'm trusting a whole lot.
No. Just wanted to throw a little shout out there because Eckler's one of my guys. But um Panther side of the ball, Deontay Johnson has still been, for the most part, solid since the Andy Dalton switch. And Chuba Hubbard is one of the biggest surprises in the league so far this year. I don't think I've talked about him as much as he deserves so far this year.
No, Chuba's been really good. Um, and honestly, if you have Chuba, he has to be in your lineup at this point. And having Andy Dalton that's actually throwing the ball and doing pretty well throwing the ball, they have to respect the pass more than they were before. And Chuba's just going to keep getting better. Honestly, I know Jonathan Brooks is coming back from injury, so we do have to watch how that mixes things up a little bit. Maybe Brooks is going to steal some carries, but I feel like Chuba's done so well that the only thing that's going to hurt him at this point is a trade. Um, if somebody goes and trades for Chuba because the Panthers are out of it, which just saying would be a really smart move by the Cowboys to make. But
Wow, yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, the Cowboys went and got Chuba Hubbard, genius move for them. But no, unless he gets traded, I think that he's going to be a solid play moving forward. So I'm very happy with Chuba.
Is he going to be on your sell high candidates list at the next, like maybe 2 weeks if Jonathan Brooks gets activated? Or do you think he's going to outlast it?
100%. Chuba Hubbard has not shown me anything that he deserves to be at this high of a value for an entire season. He has kind of like a window of being amazing every year. So he is 100% a sell high candidate. If you could sell Chuba Hubbard, I mean, you took him at the end of your draft. I don't expect him to keep it up at this pace. Plus, like I said, there's the trade options. There's Jonathan Brooks options. There's other things that could come in and be another factor. I'd sell Chuba for as high as you can get if you can. But if you're not getting good offers for him, ride that hot streak while you can.
If you're putting together some hypothetical offers or get any offers for that, make sure you send us a message or drop a comment. 2 more games in the late window really quick. Raiders at Rams. Big news in this one is Cooper Kupp is expected to at least have a shot to be back. I think that he's right back in your lineup if he is back. The Rams were holding him out as long as they needed to. I don't think he's going to be limited. And there's just not a whole lot there at the wide receiver position since Puka's still out that would take anything away from him. Other than that, it's just your guys on the Rams.
Yeah, and I'm honestly not playing Cup if he does play.
Oh,
I know it sounds crazy to bench Cooper Cup, but I truly feel like they're going to ease him back in. Especially since, I mean, if they win, they're still not in a good chance to make the playoffs. If they lose, they're really not in a good place to make the playoffs. There's no reason to force him back in right now. Um, like if they were a 500 team, I'd try to force him a little bit more so you can make sure you get that win, try to turn things around. But there's no reason to right now. I'm not playing him. I'm leaving him on my bench. I'm going to wait till next week if you have that option.
If you have that option, yeah. Well, obviously, don't know your situation if you have any really bad flex play options
Yeah,
this
if it's
week.
Cooper Cup or Dontavian Wicks, give me Cooper Cup. Like, and if you're on the fence and you don't know if, well, Tyler's saying bench him, should I start it? Like, send us the lineup questions. I'll help you out. I got you.
Anyone on the Raiders you're even considering?
Yeah, if you're playing an IDP league, make sure Max Crosby is in your lineup. No, Brock Bowers is the only guy that's worth it at this point. I don't like Zamir White. I don't like any of the receivers. Brock Bowers is good. If you need a tight end, I mean, that's probably one of the best ones that's out there right now. So that's it.
The desperation players who played Alexander Madison last week, congratulations on your long touchdown. You know it's not sustainable, but he's been in a pinch, get a couple points guy so far this year. The good matchup that the NFL really wants you to watch in the 4:00 window. Chiefs at 49ers. We've teased it a little bit. More running back news. Congratulations. Still no Christian McCaffrey. Don't get too excited. Jordan Mason, limited participant in practice. He tried to play through his shoulder injury last Thursday night, came back in for a whole one play and said, no, I can't do it. There's still a thought he's going to come back and play this week, but I am really struggling on being confident to put him in my lineups this week. I have him in a lot of different places because there's a couple places I have Christian McCaffrey. So can I throw you a couple hypotheticals on if you'd play Jordan Mason over X?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Jordan Mason or Devontae Smith?
Devontae Smith.
How about Tank Dell?
I'd roll with Tank Dell.
This one's probably an easy one, but if you look at their rankings on the season, James Conner.
Yeah, James Conner.
Okay. I think there was one other one I was looking at that was really interesting. I'm sure you're going to say Brian Thomas, but I'll put that out there.
I mean, I'm benching Brian Thomas in a lot of leagues, or in my one league that I have him, so it's hard to say that I would definitely start him. Okay. No, honestly, in that bad of a matchup, I would rather start Jordan Mason this week. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about what I'm talking about, but just from years of watching football, it seems like the shoulder injury he has is less risk of potentially a more serious injury and more of a pain management thing for him at this point. So if they can give him the good drugs and he goes out there and he really doesn't feel it that badly, he might be fine. He might be limited a little bit so that he doesn't overdo it and his shoulder isn't too bad. But if it's just pain management, typically these kinds of guys will just push through it. And I don't blame him for not pushing it last week because they didn't do the scans. They didn't know how serious it was. He didn't want to injure it any further. But now that they know it might just be pain management, he might be a full go.
It's a fair assessment. The last one I was actually trying to find, Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson, yeah, I'm going Jordan Mason.
Okay. He's right there in that same tier. Other than that, 49ers are playing your guys. Chiefs wide receivers. They were on bye last week, so we didn't really have a chance to talk about how Rashee Rice really affects that whole team. Is this Xavier Worthy's time to shine?
Yeah. Yeah, if I have Xavier Worthy, unless I have like stud wide receivers, I'm playing Worthy.
And there's just not a lot else there that I'm like confident in playing or that is going to take a lot of carries. Like I'm not the big Juju guy. So like, yeah, he's going to get an uptick, but I think Worthy being the home run hitter and the guy that they've been using in multiple different situations, I really like him going forward. You can also still roll Kareem Hunt out there because he's kind of taken over that running back one job. In the meantime, while we're still missing Isaiah Pacheco. Sunday Night Football, which Tyler is not a fan of this matchup.
No,
Jets Steelers, and the Steelers considering playing Russell Wilson. If you were, Mike Tomlin. Who are you playing at quarterback?
Um, yeah, I'm not a fan of this matchup. The NFL keeps picking these teams that they think are going to be these super fun teams to watch, and the Jets were one of them this year. The Jets have way too many primetime games, and sorry, newsflash, NFL, the Jets are not fun to watch. They are not exciting at all. It's the most bland vanilla football I've ever seen. I don't care what studs they have on that team. Um, anyway, rant over. Uh, yeah, they're considering Russell Wilson, which I think is kind of silly with how well they're doing with Justin Fields. Um, but then if you try to think of it as an NFL GM or head coach, who does give you the best chance to win? Russell Wilson hasn't looked great in the last 2 years, but at the same time, Russell Wilson has the mobile ability and is more known for his arm. And his football IQ, where Justin Fields is mostly known for his legs. Now, he's shown some good arm strength, he's shown some good passing ability this year, but he hasn't sustained that throughout his whole career. He's always been dynamic with his legs, and pretty much that's it. And when the game comes down to him, typically he's not one you want to rely on. So, if you're thinking who gives you the best chance to win, it's probably Russell Wilson. But if you
Mhm.
think who is the most talented and who is the most fun for fantasy, it's definitely Justin Fields. I think he has the more natural abilities. Um, so yeah, if I'm Tomlin, I'd roll with Russell Wilson. I know that sounds crazy, and I'm the hot takes guy for a reason.
I would. You're saying it's a hot take, and I've been the person that's also kind of been like, I feel like I'd want to see Russell Wilson in this offense because even though Fields might be the more talented, I feel like the offense has a better chance to be balanced with Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson would find a way to get George Pickens more involved and Pat Fryermuth, for example, and then like you can work the run game off of it. As opposed to with Fields, it's been a lot of like, let's just protect the ball and let our defense win the game, which obviously is working. They're playing decent. Their defense is fantastic, but it's been very bland. I think you can do a few more things with Russell Wilson. So you and I are actually on the same page on that. If Cody was here, he'd be calling us crazy because he's been the guy that's banging the table for Justin Fields all year. So there is
I
an
also
alternate
I I
opinion
don't
here.
feel like players fall off a cliff that often. I feel
Mhm.
like typically it's a slope downwards as they get older. Um, it's rare to see a player just absolutely stop being good out of nowhere. And on the Seahawks, Russell Wilson was good. He was a top quarterback. On the Broncos, he was not good. He fell off a cliff. So you really have to think, was it because Russell Wilson just stopped being good all of a sudden? Or was it the system? Was it the people around him? Was it the coaching? Like, there's a lot that goes into this. It's a team game. So I think that Russell Wilson still has more in the tank than people are giving him credit for because they're basing it off of what they saw with the Broncos. But I agree with you. I want to see what he does with the Steelers first before I completely rule him out.
Nice. Do you want a trade question here?
Let's do it.
All right. We got a question here. Two possible trade scenarios. So, scenario one, it would be your boy Darnell Mooney or Michael
Love him.
Pittman plus Devon Achan for Bijan Robinson. So, let's just start there. Um, if I'm the Bijan owner trying to get something back, I would want Mooney more than Pittman. But Mooney and Achan, is that worth Bijan?
Yeah, honestly, I think it is because I don't know what I'm expecting from the Dolphins the rest of the year. Plus, uh, Jalen Wright's good. Raheem Mostert's good. Devon Achan's good. You have a three-headed backfield, so it's too many mouths to feed. Where Bijan, you can say it's a split, but really, I think Bijan is the guy. Um, I don't love what I've seen out of Pittman so far. I don't think Anthony Richardson can stay healthy for a full year. Um, and Darnell Mooney, is he just a flash in the pan? Is he going to go back to the way he was? I like Bijan the most out of this trade, so I would take it.
So you would go Bijan side. I would also say Bijan side on that one. Scenario two, also involving Bijan on one side. The other side is Debo Samuel and Najee Harris. Now, I'll say I hate Najee Harris as much as he's like been doing decent. I don't. I'm worried it's going to go back to how it was. And Debo, as good as he is very boomer bust. So I think also stick on the Bijan side on this one.
Yeah, I like scenario one a lot better for you if you can get it. personally because I feel like Najee, as much as he's underwhelming, I feel like he's at least going to get more consistent carries than Achan will. Um, Achan's more talented, but you're hoping that Achan breaks it, where Najee's just going to get the carry after carry, um, and you're hoping he does something with it. Debo is still a big part of that offense. Um, I'm 50-50 with the second one. Honestly, I know that sounds crazy because you can get somebody like Bijan, but unless you're super deep at wide receiver, I'm probably not taking scenario two, but I would take scenario one.
Interesting. A lot of it's going to depend on how the Dolphins offense looks if they get Tua back as well. And if he stays on the field, because it's amazing how much they've fallen off a cliff without Tua. So obviously big boost for Achan if that happens, but hopefully that helps. So there's some tough ones there. I feel like 2-for-1s are a lot tougher to figure out than 1-for-2s. So
Yeah, I mean, we
hopefully
don't
it'll help
see
you out
his
there.
other receivers, but I mean, if you're talking, I know you have Mooney and Pittman. So if you do the Debo trade and you're starting Mooney and Pittman with Bijan, I don't feel like your team is that strong at this point. Um, but if you're starting um, Bijan along with Debo Samuel and Najee Harris, suddenly it sounds like a much better team. So I like the scenario one.
All right. Rapid fire a couple of things before we get to Thursday night. So Jets side, just talking about they just made the trade for Devontae Adams. You go with starting him right away if he's
Yeah,
healthy.
yeah,
Okay.
they'll throw to him.
And then Monday night, it's a doubleheader. We're going to talk more about this on our live Monday show. Just wanted to talk a bit of injury. Cardinals play on Monday night. Marvin Harrison already limited with his concussion. Normally, that's a good sign when it's this early in the week that he will have a chance to go. And if he doesn't, there's a chance you can go out there and get a Michael Wilson off of the free agency pool to go out there and fill that spot for you. So I'd be okay with keeping Marvin Harrison in your lineup unless you hear for sure he's out before the Sunday slate. Do you want to talk about Thursday night?
Let's do it.
Oh, man, I wasn't ready.
Be ready, George. Come on now.
Yep. Thursday Night Football kicking off in a little less than an hour. It is the Denver Broncos and the shell of the New Orleans Saints, I think is a way to put it.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
New Orleans Saints, if you have not heard, Rashid Shaheed, injured reserve. He got knee surgery to repair a meniscus today, and he was officially ruled out for 4 to 6 months. The Saints are calling it out for the season. Chris Olave is out tonight with a concussion. Derek Carr still out with his oblique injury. You got Spencer Rattler throwing to the likes of Mason Tipton, Equanimous St. Brown, Cedric Wilson, and Tyler's favorite new up-and-coming receiver, Bub Means. It's a great
Bub. Yeah, look, Bub looked good last week. Once the other guys got hurt, he did catch a touchdown. He's going to be a lot more involved with no receivers out there. With that being said, I am not starting him. I'm not starting any Saints receiver. I did pick up Bub Means in a dynasty league with him being a mid-round rookie and getting more consistent looks now. There's a chance he carves out a future role for himself. So in dynasty, I like the stash. Doesn't hurt. But outside of dynasty, man, I'm not picking up any of these guys. I'm even nervous about Kamara because I feel like at this point, Kamara's all they have. So they're going to be hyper focused on that run game. Maybe that opens up the pass game for guys like Means or Equinemius St. Brown. Maybe one of these guys will go off, but um, yeah, I'm not trusting any of them. I my favorite player in this matchup is both defenses.
You know what I would really like to see tonight? This might be a horrible comparison. I want to see Alvin Kamara be Taysom Hill tonight. Line him up in Wildcat, line him up out wide, give him a ton of carries. Just like run your entire offense through Alvin Kamara.
Why not? Fantasy purposes, it would be great.
Right? I don't think they're going to move him around and play him at quarterback, whatever like I'm expecting. But I think that would be really cool to see if Alvin Kamara could basically strong arm the Broncos defense. There's not even a lot to talk about on the Broncos side besides just Bo Nix has been solid. I'm impressed that the rookie has kind of brought it together over the last few weeks. It's interesting to see where they're going toward in the future. That being said, I don't want to play any of them, but good to see the Broncos starting to get together.
Yeah, if you guys have any like house cleaning projects or things you need to get done today, maybe some studying, some homework, today would be a great day to do it. Just put the Thursday night game on as background noise, and you can worry about all those other things. You don't really have to watch too closely because I don't think this is going to be a very exciting game. Now, hopefully, it turns out to be like 56-53, like that other, like the Rams Chiefs game from how many years ago, but I highly doubt it. I really don't think this is going to be an exciting game. So find something else to keep you occupied.
I'm going to say go follow Tyler on Twitter. And if he happens to be awake enough to be watching this game because it becomes interesting, send a tweet and everyone will tune in at that point.
Works for me.
All right, cool. We have one more segment because you're here.
Let's
and
go.
It's Tyler's Oddball Fact.
I like it.
Favorite.
I like
You
that you're
always
ready.
get the fun music too. I'm ready.
See, my music is the best. So my oddball fact of today is a two-parter. So I wanted to know what is the longest game in NFL history? Because that's how I felt this past Sunday. There was some not so exciting 4 o'clock games, and I was like, this game is lasting forever. We also had the game the other night that had the delay and lasted until 1 a.m. So I was curious, what are the longest games in NFL history? So I found out for you folks. Longest game in NFL history based off of game time was in 1971, and it was on Christmas Day. It was a Kansas City Chiefs 27-24. The Dolphins 27-24 victory over the Chiefs in the AFC divisional game. In game time, it lasted 82 minutes and 40 seconds. It went to double overtime.
Oh, okay.
Now,
I was wondering how that worked because there was limits.
now here is the longest game in NFL history in real time, not game time, because I know you were curious. I know you were
Mhm.
asking. So here you go. Don't worry, guys. I got you. Longest game in real time in NFL history was very recent. It was in 2018. It was between the Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins. And it was a 27-20 Miami win that lasted 7 hours and 8 minutes.
Was that the halftime monsoon game?
There was 2 lightning delays. This game kicked off at 1 o'clock and it ended pretty much at the start of the 8 o'clock game. It was painful. I remember watching this game. It was also in week 1, if I remember correctly. It was bad. But yeah, 7 hours is how long it took for that game to finally finish.
I was gonna ask you how many beers in you were for that one, but I know you're not the beer drinker. So how many Coke Zeros and cookies were you in on that game?
I was like 30 Coke Zeros in, and we don't talk about my game day snacks. Calories don't count on Sunday.
Exactly. See, I don't know why you don't have a chance to talk about it, but that's all good. Tyler, it's been a blast. I'm glad to have been back on with you here again today. I have to scramble around to find exactly what I have to put on the screen, but thank you all for listening in as well and participating in the comments. If you have any other questions, make sure you hit us in our DMs, as we're always here to help you go out there and win your fantasy games or just talk NFL. Thank you all for tuning in. For Tyler Snyder, I'm George Kurth, and we'll see you all next week.